Just a little quick.
Awesome. How does that look? Good. Cool. All right. We're live streaming, just so you guys know. So this is a live streamed event. Just want to put a heads up out there for you. Cool. So yeah, I'm Sam. Welcome to DevX. A little bit about us. Very simple. Like to keep it short and sweet. We are a community of like-minded developers and software engineers in San Diego. Our goal is to connect developers together at any skill level, inspire innovation by giving you a platform, a voice for your ideas. So this, much like this stage, you know, and build the next big thing or project that you might be interested in. So those are like our 3 pillars of what we're all about. I'd like to take a moment to introduce our other organizers of this event, AJ, Jonathan Lewis, Ezekiel, and myself. Big thanks to the volunteers and your efforts to making this event possible. So I'd like a quick shout out to them and an applause. Also, a big shout out to your host for today's event, which is Edge, the #1 crypto app platform in San Diego. With Edge, you can easily and safely store your crypto assets with full custody and security and privacy. You can find out more about Edge at edge.app. Also, a really cool thing about Edge is they're all open source, so you can also check out their GitHub at github.com/edgeapp. So feel free to make some contributions. And full disclosure, I am one of the employees at Edge. So if you have any questions about crypto or want to talk to me about crypto, feel free to hit me up, and I'll be glad to chat it up. A little bit about our facilities. Wi-Fi is Edge Guest if you haven't connected already. Password, if there is a password still, is I like big bits, all lowercase. Pretty good. And the restrooms, if you guys haven't found them already and you've been needing to find one, exit the front door, make a left down the hall. There should be no code to get in, but if there is an issue, passcode is 1595 if it's locked. So, all right, a little bit about our agenda for these presentations. Our agenda is about. We start off with about an hour of speaker presentations. We're a little bit late, running a little bit late because I've got a full house and very popular event. Woohoo! And then after the presentations, we'll do about 15 minutes of community announcements, giving all of you guys a chance to say hi, introduce yourself, say why you're here, maybe share some ideas or something cool that you want to mention. Keep those very short, but it gives you an opportunity to also connect with everybody here. After that, we spend the rest of the hour or 2 networking and building together. We have some tables over here if you brought your laptops, and over in the back as well. And you can feel free to use those and set up your laptop and workshop with people if you want. And we'll end the event around 4 o'clock, so if you guys start to get tired of us, feel free to leave earlier than that as well. But we have a lot of fun, so you might want to stick around. Our speakers today, we have about 2. I added myself in there because I have a little bit of an announcement later, which I'll save for after the presentations. But our main speakers are Rick Moy. He'll be talking about Upsite, which is to teach your app to talk. Very cool product he'll be showcasing for you guys. As well as Anthony Bubbins. I believe I'm pronouncing that. Tony. Yeah, he likes to go by Tony, so I put more professional there for you, Tony. A crash course on on-premise AI. So that's going to be very interesting stuff if you guys are into AI, which I'm sure you are. Raise your hand if you guys are into AI. Okay. No surprise there. So that's going to be our 2 talks. And then finally, I'll be doing a DevX announcement, just a little bit of something about what to expect next year and what we got going in store for you guys. So without further ado, let's welcome our first speaker to the stage, Rick.
All right. Oh. Here. right. Keyboard setup assistant. Seriously. Okay. All right. How's everyone doing? All right. Super. So I'm gonna try and like run through a little talk. Oh, I don't know. Are we good? Everyone hear me all right? Okay. I can shout if that's easier.
Want to switch mics?
Oh, you know what? Go in the top.
You want me to go?
Do you switch your switch on the back? Okay, let's try now. There you go.
All
Yeah, I
right.
think we're good.
We good?
Sorry.
All right. So appropriately, we have some audio issues, right? I'm going to talk about. We always have issues. It's development, right? So I'm going to talk to you about what I'm working on. A little bit about me. I'm kind of right now. What I'm doing is I'm building this app, but I have a background in building products, running marketing, a lot of cybersecurity, cloud, AI stuff in the background. Number of companies. I've held a lot of different kind of positions. Hard to focus on one thing. But I actually studied AI in college before it was actually practical. And so I'm excited to get back into doing some fun stuff with it. And I happen to be obsessed with learning. So that's good, because in the age of AI, we have a lot to learn and a lot of tools to help us. So conversations are kind of a dark matter. And I don't mean to be pessimistic about it, but we have a lot of conversations. And the takeaway from this slide is we forget most of it. There's so much information that could help us make better decisions that we lose because we're not paying attention. And oftentimes it's the loudest voice. I'll move around so I don't block everybody. Oftentimes it's the loudest voice of the most important person in the room and something that they say that gets taken away. And so how do we overcome that? Well, it's probably not just the traditional AI note taker, because they give you this long slop that you can't really process. How many of you have stopped like actually reading the summaries and noticing the bots that log in, right? So that's part of the solution I'm aiming to fix, because I was building a product and I said, like a good startup founder, I'm going to interview people and get feedback. And then I ended up with all these recordings that I was dreading transcribing, getting information out of. And the first couple times I could throw a few of them into AI and I'd get a summary. But I realized I wasn't getting consistency, and it would change its mind about what was in there. And God forbid I try and put multiple things in there. So I built a thing. Started off just trying to solve my own problem. And then I realized that it's not just about like collecting what people have said, that to the left of it, there's other parts of the problem, which is, what do I care about? What's my strategy? What's my business objective? Who's my ICP, my ideal customer? What are their pains? What are their goals? How do I even sit down with somebody to have that conversation and not mess it up? Because most of the times we're like, hey, look at this app I built. It's great. Don't you love it? Yeah? Everyone, right? So we totally mess up these conversations and we walk away with the wrong insights. And so I was looking at the whole picture of, then eventually you want to sell this thing, and so you got to have information on how to do that. How do you position it? What are the phrases? And so I started like really kind of trying to be curious instead of push what I was building. Wasn't trying to sell it, but I knew that I needed to just be quiet and listen first. So I started building a framework that leveraged best practices from user research teams. But most of us don't have the patience or the resources to go through that. So here's the demo time. I'll give you a quick view of what we're talking about. Just FYI, this was kind of my hook. What I was out to do was understand my customers in a way that just wasn't possible before. So what does that look like? So sample project, it starts off got to ask some questions, the onboarding, right? So what's the customer's main problem? I know it's probably hard to see that, right? What's their main problem? What goal are they trying to achieve? And who are the ideal customers? And so I've already put this in, but what I found from sitting and watching people is that they struggled. When I asked them, well, who's your ideal customer? Most people kind of glazed over. And so filling out this form was a chore. So I broke it down to I'm only going to ask them to fill out 2 things, and everything else I'm going to assist them. So when it comes to filling this stuff out, when I open this box to add an input, I'm actually going to get contextual suggestions. And that was really helpful because people said, wow, that's actually really good. The whole thing. And so they were just clicking on it and adding it. But they could also edit and delete it and modify it. And so the process was come up with your questions, and then after that, it goes through this research stuff and it will generate for you the set of questions that you should ask in the order that will be most helpful. And it picks questions from multiple categories. This particular one, it's all context, demos. But you can regenerate these. You can mark some as must-have. You can drag and drop. You can say, you know what, I am going to add a follow-up question of a certain type, and I want to know about their willingness to pay, for example. And so you can kind of construct this whole thing, and then at the end of the day, you can come in and say, all right, I'm in front of a customer, I'm going to start interviewing them. Good here. And so what that'll show you is you'll have essentially a teleprompter with your questions so that you can just kind of keep on track, because the goal is really to pay attention to the customer that's in front of you in that conversation. And I found firsthand it's really hard to. How many of you have done customer interviews? Can we see? Okay, how many of you think you've got it figured out? And okay, so one expert in the room here. So it's pretty hard to get right. And so I found the cognitive load of trying to look at too many things was just really, really hard. And so what I experienced was people were having a struggle of getting this information into the system, and there was friction because I was requiring them to type. And so I'll get to the voice part here in a second. But what you get at the end of the day after you've done these interviews is you'll get a very kind of a deep set of perspectives of, I have these things called lenses. So instead of reading the whole transcript, I may only care about their emotional state because I want to understand that. So what are their goals that they want to get out of it? What are their pains? Maybe an empathy map. This guy has no feelings apparently. Neither does this guy. Wow, I picked a good example. And you can always go back to the original source. But you can define any kind of lens that you want to extract from, maybe because that's still processing. And so, and at the end of the day, after you've done all these interviews, you can come and you can get a summary that answers your core questions. But in addition to that, I said, well, I'm going to have these other questions as I go along. So let me build in, it's the Zoom, this chatbot, and I can start asking it questions like, how many, personas have we found? Because we'll identify these personas. There's like a lot of, it's like a database tool. We're kind of taking all these conversations and storing them in a database, and you can add them in here. But my first step was, I want to get away from typing. So I put this in, it's a little box, and I can say, tell me about Lenny. What's his biggest pain? And it would basically just transcribe the audio in there, so I wouldn't have to do it, and it automatically submits it. So that was cool. But then I decided that was not enough. I want to be able to talk to it, just like ChatGPT, you can go to the real time. And so I built that part out where I could use that. But what I found was the real time API was kind of dumb. Like, it really didn't have, it was optimized more for the audio in and out, but the logic inside and the reasoning was really poor. Like, it couldn't get below the surface for what I wanted. And it wasn't that good at tool calling for what I wanted to do. So I implemented a different pipeline where I was more explicit about the different pieces. And so we're gonna try this here. The network, and me putting it on.
Hi, what can I help you with?
There you go. Okay. Hey, can you tell me how many interviews we've done so far?
Looks like I'm having some trouble pulling up the interview date. Can you
Okay.
check another way, or should I try something else?
I don't know. Maybe just try harder. Can you use the tool that gets the project information, or maybe a summary count from the interviews.
I can't seem to pull up any interview info right now. Do you want to ask about something else? Or maybe we can check in later?
How's the weather in San Diego?
I can't check the weather. Usually it's sunny and nice.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you. Okay. So a few bugs to be worked out, right? But the way I've built it, she does have tools. She was able to access them locally, but I actually just deployed it to prod and implemented all the security. So that's what I get. But it does work, and it was good. So I think that's what I wanted to show you. What's possible is you could, in terms of interacting with your application. There's another actually interactivity thing that if you notice, like in the responses that I get, that one of the tools that the system has is navigation. So it knows where I'm at. And so we're here on the overview page of what the recommendations are. But I asked a specific question, and it said, here, go talk to Lenny, or Lenny's here. So if I click on Lenny, it'll actually pull up Lenny's record. There you go. And so this tells you about Lenny and some of the different values, all the other stuff that I pulled out. So that's the interactivity part, and I thought having voice to be able to talk back and forth would be cool, because I could do it when I'm walking, when I'm driving, all that stuff, right? Who talks to AI when you're driving? Okay. While there's someone else in the car? No. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, I know. Okay, back to slideshow. How am I on time? Yeah, I'm doing it. Okay. Oh, yeah, that was a reminder to be inspiring and educational. So I don't know how we're tracking on that. But I thought being able to strategize with the tool would be good, and by giving it all of the depth of the database stored information from those conversations was good. But I also added in priorities from a strategic standpoint, like my business's marketing and sales objectives, and the actually action and development plans, so it has access to that. And there's a CRM actually inside of it, so there's sales opportunities as well, because why not? Everyone's got to do something. So how did I build it? What's underneath? Framework, essentially, my last app was Python in the back and TypeScript in the front. That interface was really rough. So I'm using Remix. How many of you know what Remix is? It's very cool, standards-based. It's like Next, but with less drama and less breaking changes. And we're using Mostra, TypeScript agent orchestration framework, Postgres, vector stores, using some pretty cool pipeline capabilities for job runners called Trigger.dev. Been liking that. Yeah, that's that. So I mentioned before that I had tried the real-time APIs. Google I couldn't even get working. I don't know what was up with that. But the OpenAI worked fine, but it was just the intelligence level wasn't good, and I wanted more control. And so this is the flow from the microphone all the way here to getting the output back, and the reasoning happens here. And I wanted to be able to use different models and tools that I didn't necessarily ship up to a hosted multimodal model. So breaking it into this was actually really, really helpful. It gave me a lot of control. But it also, and there's a lot of depth under here. And it kind of looked like this, to be honest. These were all the different things I had to think about and touch when I decided to not go with that one line, just call OpenAI. So there were certificates for encryption and termination and what services. Some were trying to step up and do handshaking over HTTP 3, but the server only liked, I see someone nodding their head, they know, right? The server only wanted HTTP 1.1, so I had to constrain that. DNS, it's always DNS, if you know. But I was able to tame it into something that looked like this. And so this is the overall flow, and I don't think we have time to get into that. But it is pretty interesting how it works in order to have secure communications that aren't just open, where you're doing, token generation and make sure you're passing that around to have a secure room and identities and passing credentials. A lot of stuff getting passed around. And so latency does become an issue. So what did I learn? I really found that owning my own context and be able to steer it in the way that I wanted with the tools has had a much better effect on the quality of the output, despite her difficulties this morning. Yeah, I didn't really like the black boxes. And everyone always says start narrow, and that's how it starts, but then there's always a shiny object over there that you think would make it better. I always grab it, I always touch it, I always get burned. But then I always learn something too, and in that process I also learn, I do the same thing with prospects when I'm showing people what I've built. And sometimes I get these aha flashes like, oh, it's actually better for this set of people than what I had originally thought. So there is some saving grace in doing that. And then measure what you're doing, especially like metrics and latency and quality. Evals are important. So I'm wrapping this up. And so that's kind of all I wanted to share. Hopefully that was inspiring. How many of you are doing voice already in some way? Wow, not many. How many of you want to do something with voice? Okay. Are you a little motivated to go and maybe try it? If I can do it, you can probably do it.
Yeah.
So.
More than a little. Yeah.
Yeah, let's go. Let's get some voice. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk. You can find me on LinkedIn over there. You can check out the app. It's in private beta, but you're all family now, so hit me up afterwards. Are we taking questions, or am I getting the hook?
I think we have time for just a few questions. Thank you, Rick. Appreciate the talk. So we'll open up to questions, but since we are live, Rick, if you can just repeat the question for the stream, so that way they can also hear it too. Yeah, does anyone have any questions for Rick?
So you were talking about LiveKit. So was it a self-hosted version, or how did it work?
Great question. Yeah. The question was LiveKit, self-hosted or cloud. LiveKit has a cloud, but I did the self-hosted.
Did you see a difference?
I didn't even try the cloud one.
Okay.
Yeah. I just did the self-hosted because it was easy to get up locally, and that's how so many of these things start. The templates script they give you is for it running off of your your laptop, and then you got to figure out the microphone that Node is listening to is not what the web browser is going to have, right? And so then you got to switch that out. But that's a good question. Like, it probably would have gone faster hosted, but I'm going to be huge, right? There's going to be millions of people using my app, and I don't want to pay this extra per minute charge.
I agree with you
So,
on that.
so plus it was an incredible learning experience to do all that fun stuff. Yeah, someone else. How about over here?
Where did you get the voice?
The voice. There is an incredible marketplace for voices. OpenAI had some, which I thought was like, eh. There's a company called DeepGram, which has really good ones. 11 Labs has phenomenal characters that you can get the voices for them too. And so you can plug and play these things.
You did a paid one?
This one is, yeah, it's paid. It's like super cheap though. But I thought she had a nice sound, but you could literally pick it.
Why don't you go for your own one? Use an open source one.
Sorry?
Why don't you use an open source one?
An open source model, an open source voice?
Yeah, why not?
I'd love to. Yeah. I just hadn't got that far in the journey. This was like less than a week of playing around with it. But I'll add that. Sorry, the question was, why don't I use my own open or an open source voice or even other open source models self-hosting it? We'll definitely consider that. There are some other open source models that are getting some good reviews. I'd love to try those. So that is actually, it's a really good point. I think it's important to encourage us to not just go with like the mainstream that's in front of us that everyone else is using, because there's some really cool stuff happening in other corners. Any other questions? Way in the back.
Yeah, what are you using for speech diarization?
The speech diarization was actually done by the incoming speech model, which was DeepGram is the short angle here, like this part here, and then there's this VAD, which is voice activation detection, and there's a turn detection, which is when someone else takes over. So let's see, anything else? Okay, well thanks. Then I've got to do my obligatory selfie here, so. All right, thanks everybody.
Thanks so much. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, I'd like to welcome Tony to the stage here. Got some exciting stuff for us about on-prem AI. So please give a warm welcome to Tony.
I think we're good. Yeah, thank you. Good stuff. I like it. Yeah. I'm gonna have to check that out later.
We did do an AV check, so this should be working.
You don't need no audio, right, Tony?
No. There we go.
Let's see.
Okay. All right, so I can tell you can hear me already. So I'm Tony, and my talk is basically on how you can self-host a lot of things. You can avoid the dependencies of the cloud, you can avoid the bills, and you can just have fun building stuff that works even if Cloudflare is down, for example. Not that that ever happens. Should probably turn the clicker on. All right, so about me, I'm a system engineer, cloud architect, solutions architect, developer, basically digital janitor. Bits come in, we do stuff with them, we make them do something else, and then we send them out on their way. We can dress it up, but end of the day, we're just pushing bits around. So today's talk is going to be about the components that we use for actually hosting things. Proxmox is a mostly open source, free use. You can also get a community license for $100 if you want to feel good about using someone else's software. And it's basically a hypervisor. So VMware got bought up by Broadcom. A lot of people don't like what they've done with it. So Proxmox and some other companies are getting a little more usage. I've been using Proxmox for more than 10 years. It's great. I run everything with it. There's Kubernetes and Docker. You can do all that stuff on Proxmox as well. You can run containers locally, natively, do all that stuff. I got everything there. All right, so here's a video of an actual install of a Proxmox server. It takes about 3 minutes, and I'll talk about stuff in there. Depending on how visible this is, we'll continue and move some stuff on. But basically, one of the things that's good about having your own stuff running is you can set up things, your own VMs, your own services. Someone asked me a question earlier. You can do things like set up your own DNS server. That way you're not typing in IPs. You can type the name of your Whisper audio server or whatever things you're running like that. You can have llm.mydomain.com, which is available either in your actual domain. You can do port forwarding, or you can just have it running locally inside your apartment, house, or what have you. Basically, it lets you decouple where things run from how they run. You can pay for things. You can do things internally. You don't have to have a lot of hefty hardware. You can just go ahead and put stuff in, run it, get your pipeline established, and then say, okay, yes, I will rent 8 GPUs for $3 each per hour and run my system in the cloud. But why spend that much money when you're just prototyping things? You can run it locally on low-end hardware. You could be patient. You can use smaller models, and you can just figure out how things actually work and then worry about scaling things up. So this will continue on for a bit. Basically, all you're going to do is type in the IP address if you can use static for what you want. The only thing that you might have an issue with on Proxmox, there's a new version 9.1 as of this week, but in some of the prior versions, some people on certain versions of hardware, it seems like the install freezes. It's not, it's actually just checking the disk, and so if you're patient and you wait a few minutes or a few hours, depending on the drive and the controller interaction, it will go through. But if you're an impatient person, during the hard drive partitioning, you can just say, hey, use ZFS, and then it'll go through just about instantly. So if you do run into that issue, just change the hard drive formatting and you're good to go. What Proxmox is going to do during the install, and it's a RESTful API, and it's also JavaScript-based GUI, so if you really want to customize things with it, you can. And as developers, we can always tinker with things. One of the things that's also nice about it is you can use Ansible, SSH, any other automation tools to go in and never even look at the GUI again if that's what you don't want to do. So you can figure out how to do something, look at how the configuration file changes, and then use Ansible or OpenTofu or whatever you want to automate all of that, so you can say, hey, now give me 100 instances of this. And you can use the same templates and those kinds of things. I won't go into full detail on that because we're going to cover some other things, but you can see we've completed an install. It tells you what port you're going to need. 8006 is the main thing you're going to forget. When you want to log into your system, just add :8006 at the end. That's why it seems like it's not up. All right, so let's move on to the next one. Now, I have extra security stuff on my browser, so I get that prompt when I first log into it. If you're using NoScript or those types of things, you will as well. Enable your permission structure, and then you'll get the interface. Why do you get that? Because it's a JavaScript interface. So when you're actually connecting into the system, there we go. That's me doing my NoScript stuff. So you log in with the username and password. You get a panel on the left-hand side of the screen, which has things. This is a little too small to see, so we won't worry about it. But the main thing is you got all your settings there. You can add storage and other aspects into it. You can see, hey, I want to apply more cores on this VM, more memory. You can change all those things and configure it however you like. But we're getting a little too technical for an overview, so let's move on. Ollama is probably the main engine you guys are familiar with. LM Studio is the other one for running LLMs. LLM is a large language model. Basically, it's your chat GPT. They come in all different sizes, all different constraints. Some are tuned to be better for code, like Claude, and others are tuned for other things. It's an easy install. You run that on your Linux console, or you install the exe for Windows or Mac OS. Ollama is the back end. It's the main one. There's also LLVM and Cobalt and a couple others, but the engines are all basically the same. You're going to give it a model, it's going to run that model, and it's going to do stuff with it. For Ollama, I'll suggest adding the _ verbose command, so that'll tell you how many tokens per second you're getting. So if you're doing tuning, you can see, hey, is this configuration better? Is that configuration better? All that kind of stuff. The other main thing is if you want to run it on your network and you're not connecting locally from the same machine, but let's say you have a desktop with a couple of video cards, you want to run it there, and you want to connect it from your laptop, that setting right there in the environment file is how you tell it to, hey, talk to everything on my local network. So here's an example of Granite. Granite is IBM's LLM. I do not recommend it, but it was one of the ones that was most recently updated, so I used that when I made this video. And let me hit the play button. So this is running on local hardware. This is not running in the cloud. This is not costing me X dollars an hour. All this is costing me is my power bill, which California, not the cheapest place to run it, but good enough. One of the things you can do is you can change the context parameter. The longer the parameter, the shorter the time it takes, the more time you have before it loses context and figures out, hey, you told me to do it in orange, but now suddenly it's pink because it forgot that you told it that. That makes things a lot slower as you start using things. But this is running on a 7900 XTX. You can get it for about $900 off Amazon, less than $1,000. And we're getting 80 to 100 tokens a second, depending on the context and the queries that are going on. The larger the model, the slower it'll actually be. LM Studio is the other one you may be familiar with. That will also serve on the network. So if you have a Mac laptop and a PC, you could set it up on one, connect to it from the other. Just set it to serve on the local network, and that's via the green box and server settings. So what do we have to deal with on models? So ChatGPT versus Gemini, all these things, Kimi and Claude, those are all great. Those are all smarter and have more knowledge and are better than what you can run at home, no matter how patient you are. But they're not actually good compared to executing on what you actually want it to do. So the real question is not how big a model can you run, it's how small a model can you run that it's actually useful. The 7900 XTX has about 1,000 gigabytes a second of memory bandwidth. The 5090 is double that. What this amounts to is this. Here's the VRAM math. If your model doesn't fit in your VRAM, it's going to run a lot slower. It doesn't matter if you have 200 gig on your PC if your video card only has 8 gig. If you're running anything other than an 8 gig model, it's going to be terribly slow. The analogy for this is you're in Germany, you're driving 100 miles an hour on the Autobahn for the first, let's say it's a 100-mile trip, you drive 100 miles an hour for the first half hour, you're halfway there. You now take the off-ramp and you find yourself at Petco Park right before a game. You're going to be going 10 miles an hour for the next 5 hours. So you're going from 1 hour, if everything fit in the model, to 5.5 hours going to CPU. And that number can actually be worse depending on what you're actually doing. Context also takes some size, but that's enough math. Here's a fun thing. So this is running the same kind of query as the Granite model, except it's doing it through the OneWeb UI. OneWeb is basically a way to say, hey, I don't want to do this at the console, I want to look in a browser. One of the nice things about OneWeb UI is when you ask it a question, it will do things in color, and eventually, if you're doing code, it'll also try to show you what that code actually executes. Again, I don't recommend Granite if you're trying to do code. It's not going to do it right, but you do get to see syntax highlighting, and you do get to see that your cube or whatever is going to pop up. Let's move on to the next one. Comfy UI is for pictures. You can do pictures in OneWeb UI as well, but Comfy UI gives you a bunch of nodes that you can control and do additional statistics with. So let's hit play on that. Again, this is on a 7900. Once the model's loaded, it takes about 1 second to make an image. If you have enough memory, you can do more than one image at a time, and you get some benefits of doing that. So this will run first for the one image, then you can see me changing it to 8. Now you can actually see that progress bar. It doesn't just immediately appear. Now I'll see 8. And because I didn't think to stretch it out before I made the video, you'll see me slowly drag it out like a normal person. One of the things that is good if you're doing image generation is to realize that you're not going to write a perfect prompt. It's much easier to say, give me 100 versions of this, then see which of the seeds had a good response for you, and then say, okay, now I'm going to use this seed, and then I'm going to start tweaking my prompt. Once I have, let's say, oh, I want a bottle with a lid versus this lid or whatever. Let's say, oh, I like the small plastic cap. So then you could use that seed, which will be auto-incremented depending on how you set things up. And you can say, okay, this is what I think the product should look like, or this is what I want my kitchen to look like if you're taking it to a contractor or dealing with any of those kinds of things. One of the things you can do on AMD's Radeon Top, NVIDIA has the SMA and other clients, so you can basically say, hey, is it actually using my GPU? The first time you set stuff up, it may not recognize the GPU that you have, and it may be running on CPU. If things are seeming really small, run either Radeon Top for AMD chips or the NVIDIA SMI client so you can see what is essentially top, but for your GPU. If it's not actually using things there, and very specifically, if it hasn't loaded the model into memory, that means you're not using your card, and that's why things are slow. If you have more than one card, same situation applies. Check each of the cards and make sure that they're actually doing stuff. ComFuey can also do video. Just like there's different models for text interface, there's also different video models. There's one called WAN. This is the smaller one, and this is for making videos. Now, if your eyes are good, you'll see the Hogwarts night bus appear at a certain point, out of nowhere. Let's see that again. So when we get to seconds 5, there's no bus in front of the little car, but one appears right behind it. So this is 24 frames a second. It's generating 120 images to make the 5 seconds. It's 8 because I didn't cut it properly. That's why you get the extra little kick. Videos are much harder to do than a single image because you have to worry about internal consistency. They're not great at it. That's why you get the bus from nowhere to reappearing. The other bus disappeared as it was passing. And if we look at the bottom, humans don't paint lines like that. So those are the inconsistencies when people say, hey, is this AI? The signs aren't consistent. There's a language that doesn't exist. They don't make things pop in and out. Humans have too many or too few fingers. All that kind of stuff goes on. So let's talk about what we can do with our VMs. So Rick was talking about text-to-speech, speech interfaces. So you can do those kinds of things. You can set that up and run that locally. You can use Git for your own source repository. If you want to replace Netflix and you have a movie collection already, you can use Jellyfin for media streaming. You can download things from YouTube, store them locally, watch them later, all that kinds of stuff. If you're a digital hoarder, you can do all that kinds of stuff and have yet another reason to buy video cards. Hard drives. You can do your own cloud drive backup. Now, the downside there is if your house burns down and this is still in your house, then you don't actually have a backup. That's a separate rule, but in everything else, it works pretty good. And obviously, you can do your own stack for LAMP, Linux, MERN, etc. The other thing, as we're talking on, is for secure private AI agents. Now, if there's privacy concerns and security concerns, that's all great and that's all important. If you run it locally, it'll run even without the internet. But the other thing to consider on this is if you're establishing your workflow and your workflow depends on OpenAI or Meta, not suddenly saying, hey, you know what? We're just going to charge 10 times as much or 100 times as much. Or we've decided that we're going to leave prices the same, but we're going to lower the quality of the model. Your workflow is now going to break, and you have no control whatsoever on that. You've created dependency in your pipeline or in your business where you can't do anything about it if they change it. It's like, if Google deletes all your data, you know what you get back? Your money. How much are you paying Google? Do you care if you get a day's payment for services back if they've lost all your data? These are things to consider when you're establishing a pipeline. Just like all the NPM security issues or the left padding reference from a couple years back, if you don't control your pipeline, you don't control your product, you don't control your service, and you're losing the ability to do whatever it is that you actually may want to be doing. So that's my talk. That's my QR code. If you want to connect on LinkedIn, go ahead and scan that. And I believe we have some time for questions.
Yes, we do.
All right.
Quick round of applause.
All right. Do we have any questions for Tony? Just be sure to repeat the question so that we all hear it.
Hands up.
So one of the situations with these local models is that they're, they vary in sizes. It could be like anywhere from like gigabytes to like, 192 gigabytes and stuff like that.
I've got a 400 gig model. Yeah. I've got a 400 gig model that I ran just to see if it's substantially better and if it was worth buying enough video cards to run it properly.
Right, but like, so, the smaller the model, the dumber it is, as you pointed out. And so what do we do in the situation where like, you want to use these models, but like, you wanted to do like more beyond like its like small scope of understanding?
Yeah. So there's a couple, so the question is, how do I use a small model but still use it to do big things? So the main example there I'm going to say is, let's say we want to write a program, whether it's a website, an app, or whatever. LLMs and AI in general is terrible at understanding context and the goals that you're actually trying to accomplish. If you try to give it 20 things to do, it's going to forget half of them and it's going to do the other half poorly. The first thing it does is going to be great. The second thing it does is maybe going to work. The third thing might give you an idea. But the quality of the response that you get when you try to have it do everything, I've found is terrible, even going up to 400 gig models. What does work is taking what it is that you're trying to accomplish and breaking that down into 20 sub-problems. So you can say, oh, make me a website. Okay, you'll have a basic hanging page. And you say, well, let's add an account login feature. Let's add this, let's add that. Do it one step at a time. That way you're not blowing the context into an enormous amount. It also makes it so that the code that it gives you is going to be much more concise, and that makes it easier to integrate and debug. What I would highly recommend not doing is don't take any of the code that it gives you and assume that that's going to be correct and efficient. Take it, see what it's doing, and saying, oh, I haven't heard CSS animation frame. I can use that in the code. Rewrite everything that it gives you, because when you do that, you are applying the consistency. You are applying the controls, and you're doing that sort of thing. In terms of giving the model more capabilities, you can use RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. So I believe Ezekiel gave a presentation on that a while back. Javier gave a presentation on that. Basically, that's a way of saying, hey, I'm going to use a small model like Granite, which understands English perfectly okay, and I'm going to have that connect to this tool which says, here's the name of my database. If someone's asking for a product, look in my database, give me those results first before looking for something else. So one of the things I'm doing is setting up a model to write code the way I do it, so that JavaScript doesn't exist. Tony's JavaScript exists. And so it's not going to use document create element. It's going to use LNU and functions that I wrote, because that's all that it's aware of, and it's constrained in such a way that it's not going to bring other things in. I don't recommend doing that. That's a terrible thing to do. It's not for production, but I like scratching that itch, so that's one of the things I do. Does that answer your question, Rafi?
One of many.
Okay. Is there another question? Yes.
You're talking about like security and privacy between LLM models and how they can be accessed.
Yeah.
If it's like RAN, how can you like make sure that there's security? Like I don't really see.
Okay, sure. So the question is, how do you keep the LLM model secure? So the example that I specified, that's running on my hardware. I can rip out the internet cable and it'll still run. So Meta, Google, they don't get access to my query, they don't get access to my data, because I'm not running on their hardware, I'm not running on their services. These are open source or open weight models that you can download, and you can run that locally. And you can set up security on your system to make sure that, oh, Olama, so like the security risk here is not DeepSeek. The security risk here would be Olama. What if Olama is doing something they shouldn't be? If you're doing anything in networking, you should have ingress firewalls as well as egress firewalls. If I have a machine that's only supposed to be talking to machines that are on my LAN and it's reaching out to the internet, I should be blocking that entirely, or I should have a list of things that say, oh, you're allowed to talk to apt-cache.ubuntu and download an update for the virtual machine itself, for the OS. But there's no reason any of those machines need to see the internet elsewhere. I'd say the same thing if you're using any kind of internet camera. There's no need for your $50 made in China, software in China camera to be talking to China if it supports RTSP or something like that. If you want to access it from home, you don't need to use their app. You can use a VPN, OpenVPN, WireGuard, those things, put that on your phone. That lets your phone act as if your phone is inside your home network or your office network, talking to things locally, and then you access the camera directly, or a camera server like Blue Iris or something like that. So the short version of that is you can trust Google and other third-party companies to not influence anything on your data by not giving your data to them. And that's the only way. All right. Any other questions? In the back, Matt.
Curiosity question, what are your favorite models that you've run locally so far?
I've tried just about everything. One of the largest models that I've run is Qwen 235A30. So that's basically a 400 gig model. You can load that into memory, and then it's searching just 30 billion parameters worth of it. If you only have one card and it's a 24 gig, DeepSeek or the more recent GPT OSS is a 20 billion parameter model that gives adequate results. If you have multiple cards, basically just figure out what's the sweet spot on yours. 70 billion parameters is good enough. And for when DeepSeek was initially released, their 70 billion parameter model is the first one that answered correctly what I consider to be a level 1 question. The question that I used for that was using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript only, no Canvas, no Babylon, no third-party frameworks. Give me a 3D cube, a web page with a 3D cube, same colors as Rubik's Cube. I enumerated the colors, white, blue, green, orange, yellow, red, told it where to put them. And then I said, give me 3 buttons, X, Y, and Z. When I click on X, it should rotate about the X axis. When I click it again, it should stop rotating on X. Same for Y and Z, and they should all be controlled independently. Llama didn't do it. None of them would do that until DeepSeek at 70 billion parameters. Now, I had to put a bunch of stuff into the prompt to get even the 70 billion parameter one to do it correctly. Some of the ways that the other ones would fail is saying it's not rotating about the center of the axis. The sides of the cube are all collapsed on each other. But DeepSeek's original release, 70 billion parameter model, was the first one that does it. And that'll run on 2 24 or 32 gig cards without any issues. So you still get pretty reasonable response from it. Question? So you.
Yeah, I agree the local models are pretty cool, but is there like a way you could switch on the deep think or the deep research so it will go to the internet?
Oh yeah, RAG is one way to do that. So you could put in a parameter list that basically says, hey, here's your agentic thing, ask this guy, give him information, have another one. You can run multiple agents, multiple LLMs, depending on your hardware setup, have them interact, and if there is a conflict between them, you could escalate. You could also use OpenWebUI or ComfyUI through cloud interfaces to connect to SIMs. So if you say, hey, 90% of the time, just running my stuff is fine, but I've got an order for 10,000 images of San Diego aerial shots. I would say just use a drone if you're going to do that. But whatever the case is, you could then set up your same pipeline, extend it into the cloud, go to Vast AI, DigitalOcean, whoever, and say, you know what? Give me that $25 an hour system. I would like to rent that for a weekend, crank out 1,000 images or a 2-hour video, do those kinds of things, and then say, okay, I've got this. I don't need to have the cloud resources anymore. I can scale back and do it locally. The short version for how do I use the cloud if I want to escalate is use agentic AI, or RAG is the way to look that up. So basically, you want an LLM that's good at using tools, or you want an LLM that's good at recognizing when you say, hey, go to the internet. You can put in a context as part of your prompt says, go to the internet and see means use this other LLM, follow this pipeline. All right, time for one more question? Yes.
With some of the large models that you see on Olama, the big constraint is obviously the graphics card that you have locally.
Yeah.
But have you seen, I've seen lately that for those large models, like the DeepSeek with very high parameters,
Yeah.
they have like a cloud version that
Yeah.
you can sort of run locally, but it's like the model's hosted in the cloud, so you don't have to have really.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that? Or?
Yeah, you can do that, and you can pay for the APIs and do any of that stuff. For me, my interests are more of, hey, I want to be able to do this any way I want to do it forever and ever. I don't want to spend 100 hours figuring out how to get a tool to work and then have someone do something like VMware. Broadcom bought VMware. VMware is the #1 virtualization hypermanager, and it's a much larger corporation than Proxmox and those types of companies. What Broadcom did when they bought VMware was basically say, hey, all you small companies that are only spending $1 million or $2 million a year on our software, we don't care about you. Your license fee is now 10 times what it was. Literally, they jumped the price up 900%. I don't like to put myself in that situation, and I don't know why other people are okay with it.
I was just gonna see if you were like, if you compared the intelligence of something that was
Yeah.
hosted.
Okay, so sure, the larger DeepSeek is a 671 or something like that billion parameter model. To run it fully unquantized would take 1.3 terabytes of memory. I've got a machine that'll actually do that. The issue is that if you're running it on CPU memory, again, it goes back to the 100 miles an hour for 1% of the trip, and then you're running at 10 miles an hour for the rest of the trip. There's ways of doing that with multiple core and multiple memories, but basically my determination was the 200 billion parameter model and the 600 billion parameter model, that's better than the 30 billion or the 70 billion model, but it's not 2 times, 4 times as good. It's certainly not worth running that on the hardware that I have for the results that you get. I find I get a much better response if I spend 2 minutes thinking how to reword the problem and break it into smaller chunks and have it address them individually than trying to say, here's one problem in 20 parts, please try to solve all of it. I've let queries run overnight testing that, and the results still didn't do what I wanted it to do. So for me, it makes no sense to continue down that path until they get a lot better than they are.
Okay.
Are we on time?
I think we're on time.
All right.
Perfect.
Well, thank you. Oh, I'll grab a selfie too. There we go. That's it.
Very good. Awesome stuff. Thank you, Rick. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sorry. Tony.
Ba-dum-bum.
Names are all mixed up today.
Getting this back up here. 1 second. Let's put that on. Okay, cool. All right. I'd like to just give one more round of applause to all of our speakers today. Awesome stuff. All right. Next thing I would like to do is just give all of you guys an opportunity to share why you're here. You know, get up on stage and share your announcement with the community. This gives you a chance to say not only why you're here and introducing yourself, but maybe you're looking for someone particular, right? Maybe you came here to like meet someone else that is interested in what you're interested. Maybe you're starting a startup or a project and you want to really connect. So this gives you a chance to shout out, hey, I'm me, I'm looking for so-and-so. Or maybe you have another event or some other activity you want to share. Maybe you want to shill something. It's your time. So raise the hands if anyone wants to give an announcement to the community. Short, 15 seconds, no pressure. Quick show of hands. I saw hands up. That was Rick. I'm kidding. Any? Yeah, we got one show of hands. Feel free to come on up. Hey, what's up? What's going on? Just 15 seconds. Introduce yourself and tell us why you're here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Valen. This is my second time here, and first time I learned a lot, so I just want to meet a lot of people that are affiliated with the software industry. I'm doing a startup where I'm just creating a website and trying to make an app, pretty much just showing reels that are appropriate, and just trying to meet some people to offer new ideas or see if you would even be interested in trying to be a part of it. Yeah. My company is called Snip Clips Inc. Yeah, it's a startup. We're probably in our 4th month, bootstrapping it. But if anyone has any ideas and trying to help in any way, shape, or form, I'm all ears. Cool. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Alan. Appreciate it.
Awesome stuff. Thanks for coming again, Valen. It's good to see you. Any show of hands if anyone else wants to say hi, give a little shout out while they're here. We got another hand? Yeah, come on up. Yeah, again, just introduce yourself to the community and just tell us why you're here. Short, 15 second.
Okay, thanks. Hey guys, I'm Luke. Lucas Cooper Bay. I work over at a videography studio called Blue Barn Creative. We do video production, and I just work in their studio section to try to help them with their back end. I learned Python a few years ago. I've been here twice, and I've just sort of developed my way into knowing somewhat of what I'm doing and learning every single day a little bit more. So we're going to put on a weekly thing. It may turn into more days of the week. It's going to be a little vibe coding community thing. It's just at the bottom of between Laurel and Reynard, called Blue Barn Creative. If you see me and you want to talk about nerding out on anything at all, then hit me up.
Thank you so much.
I think we all vibe code our way through everything nowadays. Did you have an announcement as well, Tony? Sure, come on up.
Since there's a lot of new faces today, if you haven't already scanned it, you can connect my LinkedIn and just send me a message, tic-tac-toe. If you're new and want to figure out some stuff out, I have a standard spiel I send to people. So rather than say that to fit the 50 new people, just send me the phrase tic-tac-toe. That's it.
Thank you, Tony. Awesome stuff. Tony is really good at helping people out in the community. So big thanks to you, Tony, for sticking around and sharing all the knowledge you have. Did I see any other hands pop up? I see a couple more. And if you want, you can kind of just line up on the side here as well, because they're going to be short announcements. But come on up. Hello. Hey. Yeah. Introduce yourself. Short 15 minutes.
Sure. Yeah. Hello, everyone. 15 seconds, of course. Yes. Yes. Yeah. My name is Himanshu, and this is my first event here. I just saw it in an ad. I'm an AI developer, and I love to build apps that can be used by normal customers. So if anyone have an idea, I'm a sucker for building apps. Let's build it. Open source or monetize it, we can all do it. Yeah. Let's connect on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to talk to anyone.
Can you remind me your name again? Himanshu. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Himanshu. Just a full disclosure, I did say 15 minutes. I did that last time. It went really wrong. So I apologize for that. That was my mistake. 15 seconds. Go ahead.
All right. I'm Jonathan. I'm one of the organizers, and we have a weekly meetup at the Belching Beaver in Oceanside. If you want to come, it's called the North County Coders, if you've ever seen it. So feel free to come by. It's there every Thursday. We start at 6 p.m. Or sorry, Tuesday. Every Tuesday, start at 6 p.m. The other thing I want to say is I'm just looking for more people to collaborate, talk with you about what you're working on. My particular interests are in learning and maybe the new space of how, coaching agents, things like that can help you learn and develop more quickly. Also, I've been doing more product management type work. So if you want to talk about your product and user research and that type of thing, of course, Rick, all this is very relevant for you. But yeah, I'm totally interested in that. So I'd be happy to talk to you. My background was in software engineering. And so I'm moving from that into doing more product work. Thanks.
All right. Come on up. Yeah, introduce yourself. 15 seconds, not minutes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Manav. I'm actually not from here. I'm a student. I'm a senior at University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. I'm visiting my friend in UCSD. This was a great event. I just wanted to meet other people, and I'm looking at to meet more founders who are working on ideas. I have background at working at a fintech startup in Chicago, and I would love to talk to you guys if y'all are interested. I'm looking at stuff in growth ops or like operations strategy and stuff like that. So yeah, feel free to connect with me. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Do you have an announcement, Rick? Sure. Okay, go ahead. Come on. And yeah, again, if anyone else wants to stand on the side as well.
Here for my 15 minutes. So I also run a product meetup in North County, usually at Lucadia Pizzeria if you like pizza. It's generally more on the product management side, which is what Jonathan was referring to. So if you want to, a little less on the code, but we do have several people from the community who've come and shown their products. It's very much around demo, what you've built, pitch an idea, get some feedback from designers, product people. So just another opportunity. It's SD Product on Luma is where we're at, or hit me up.
Thanks, Rick. All right. Yeah, feel free to introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Joey. I'm in the VR and AR space, so if anyone's in that space, feel free to introduce yourself. I just have a game called Glider Sim. It's on the MetaQuest headset, so be sure to check that out. And I did bring my headset today, so I might try to do a demo too, if anyone wants to check it out.
Thank you so much. I have one person in mind that I'll try to connect you with that also works in VR and is working in game development. So pretty cool. So talk to either one of those guys. That sounds like some really cool stuff. All right. Anyone else? Show of hands. I think that's everyone. All right. Awesome. Really cool. I really liked a lot of the announcements today. Thanks for sharing. We have one final announcement for DevX. Since this is our last event for 2025, we have some big plans for 2026. Schedule coming out shortly. We've been thinking about what we are doing here and what we want to plan for 2026 in general. And some of our ideas really started with how can we bring and keep developers together within the community. We have Discord, we have X, we have YouTube, we have so many different social media platforms where we all can connect, but we wanted to kind of figure out a way to bring everybody here together and stay consistently together. So with that, we're thinking of announcing or launching DevX members. So the idea here with this is that it's a place for you guys to focus place for the DevX community, right? It's all about focusing on our core pillars, which is to connect, right? So we all connect here with Discord, X, and whatnot. We want to create a place that's focused on that, right? You guys can stay connected, right? And also to inspire like talks like this, right? A place where we can be sharing with each other and posting some pretty cool content that we put together, right? Some of the cool things that you guys are doing as well, projects. And to build, right? Because we want to get some activity, staying people focused, keeping each other in check, and really focusing on those things. So with that, we want to create a bridge connecting people together through in-person community events, discourse, resources, all of that, right? We want to do that for our members. To inspire, we want to provide an open platform to share big ideas, curiosities, and wonders, right? So like if you have a project, we want a place for you guys to share that, right? Within DevX community. And then to build, we want to kind of like create a motivation platform, somewhere you can be really motivated. Hey, I'm working on this project. I need some help, some resources. Somewhere we can connect on that as well. So in order to achieve this vision for 2026, we have to start somewhere. And so we'd like to first start by introducing name tags. These are just simple digital community name tags for DevX community and for events. It's just going to be a little profile, a little place online on DevX. Nothing fancy, but super cool looking. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe turn down the lights. Hold on a second. Look at that. It shimmers. It's shiny, right? It's cool. Your DevX profile is very simple. You know, you can edit it, add your name, information there, links, areas of interest that you have, your skills. It's a very basic profile, but it's your name tag for the event, right? So you can kind of claim it and say, hey, this is it. I'm a part of DevX community. So that is what we have in store very, very soon. I was hoping to launch it today, but there's an actual bug, right? Of course, we vibe our way through things. So I have to say it's coming very, very soon. How soon, right? Well, one thing that for those of you who are new to the community, you might not know, something to know about DevX is that we're all open source. So our website and this whole feature is currently in PR. So if you guys are on GitHub, you can check out what we got in store for you and how it's actually built. So full transparency. But as you can see down here, we got a couple of commits here that I tried to rush through the door, but fix did not work. So hopefully within the next day or so, we'll send out a little email and let you know when name tags is ready for you. With that said, join DevX, sign up, go to devx.network. This is a place where you can soon get your name tag, and then you can also be submitting a talk. If you have an interesting, itching thing you want to share with the community, go to DEVxNetwork right now, and you can actually submit a talk form, and we'll fit you into the next schedule. Also, we have our Discord, LinkedIn, X, YouTube, and more all there as well. Whatever is your fancy, you can check us out there. And subscribe to our Luma event calendar. I know some of you came here on meetup.com. Show of hands. Cool. 1, 2. There's a few. All right, cool. We're trying to move people over to Luma. It's a lot easier for us for the check-in process, see how many people are attending and whatnot. So if you can, check out Luma and follow our calendar there. And yeah, so this is only the beginning for us, actually. 2026 is going to be a good one. You can scan the QR code to get to DEVx.network. And with that said, thanks for listening. I really appreciate you guys' attention. I appreciate your attendance here. Feel free to enjoy the rest of the event and have an awesome time at DEVx. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.